Hello, fellow mompreneurs. Welcome to the Real Moms Podcast, the go-to space for resilient entrepreneurs who are striving for abundant living. I'm your host, Shae Spits, a mompreneur and a realtor here in Columbus, Nebraska. Are you a mom juggling the hustle of entrepreneurship, family life, and personal growth? Well, you're in the right place. On this podcast, we dive deep into the real, unfiltered stories of incredible women who are navigating the journey of mompreneurship. We'll celebrate the victories, share practical insights, and acknowledge that it's okay to face challenges along the way. Success isn't about the destination. It's about the journey and the growth we experience as we balance our careers and the chaos of family life. Whether you're a seasoned mompreneur or just starting on this exciting path, join me and our amazing guests as we explore what it truly means to be a resilient entrepreneur striving for abundant living. Get ready for real, raw, and remarkable conversations that will inspire and uplift you. Because here at the Real Moms Podcast, we believe in the power of community, authenticity, and the strength that comes from embracing the journey together. So grab your coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's dive into the world of mompreneurship. This is the Real Moms Podcast, where we celebrate the hustle, honor the struggle, and thrive as resilient entrepreneurs living abundantly. Dr. C. Okay, that's so much easier. All right, we're going to get into this again. We're going to try it again. Take two. Welcome to another episode of Real Moms Podcast. I like to start every podcast off with a motivational quote, and today's quote is, "Believe in yourself." I have the honor of introducing Dr. C, who is distinguished professional with a doctorate of nurse practice degree from the University of South Florida, specializing in family and facial cosmetics. As a licensed broker in both Florida and Georgia, she goes beyond borders, assisting clients with relocation needs across the USA. With a unique blend of medical expertise and real estate acumen, Dr. C seamlessly guides her clients through life's transitions, ensuring their well-being and satisfaction every step of the way. So, Dr. C, Alicia, welcome to my podcast, and thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
So maybe you can tell the listeners how to actually pronounce your last name. It's Dr. Claircius, right?
Yes, it's Dr.
All right, so we went with Dr. C. It was a little bit easier for me. So I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you being patient with me. So tell me a little bit about your journey into the nurse practitioner field, cosmetology, and real estate. I mean, that's a lot going on right there.
Okay, so you meant start how I transitioned into real estate?
Well, I guess tell me what got you into the nurse practitioner, and then, I mean, obviously you have 4 kids, so that's a lot to take on. So tell me from the beginning, like, why nursing? How long were you doing the nurse practitioner? And then what got you to where you're at today?
So it's actually, I call it a little sad story, but I guess a happy story too. So my father, he was always there for me. And at 15, he ended up passing. And it was a traumatic death because I actually saw him. I was taken to him to the doctor because I just got my, what do you call this? Permit, like driver's permit at 15.
Yeah.
And when I took him to the doctor, he ended up getting out of the car. And why I was taking him to the doctor is because the clonidine that he was taking, which is a very small hypertension pill, was causing him to have seizures. So something was imbalanced within his body. But of course, I didn't know that at 15. So as soon as he got out of the car, he ended up walking a couple of steps. He was on a cane by then, and he fell and hit the back of his head. So his head was like bleeding out on the concrete. So I ran to go get help. So when I went to go get help, the lady at the reception desk, she just kind of sat there, and I'm just like panicking, like, somebody please come out, help me. And she's just sitting, and I'm like screaming, you got to come out. So she finally came out, but I saw she had a boot on her leg, and she's like, oh my God. So she called the hospital, which ironically, the hospital was right across the street. Like literally, I could have just picked them up and took them over there if I could pick them up. But they took like 15 minutes to get there with an ambulance. So he's just bleeding out, hot sun. It's all down his shirt. And by the time that they got to him, he ended up having a grand mal seizure on the stretcher. So long story short, he was in the hospital, ICU unit. I just remember that day when everything happened, and they ended up intubating him. So he was on intubation. A couple of days later, 2 or 3, they end up pulling the plug and rescinded life support because he was brain dead. But at that time, I didn't know what to do. So that kind of geared me towards the medical field, because I'm like, I wish I knew what to do in that situation. Maybe I could help pressure, I don't know. I was like, I didn't know what to do at 15. So I didn't know what signs to look for. So I said, getting into the medical field would help me help someone else. So through that process, I ended up going to school, getting my prerequisites, then associate's degree. I had an AA degree, bachelor's, worked my way up to master's and doctorate. But through that process and journey, I was able to help a lot of people. I initially started out working at a hospital, and I worked in palliative units, which is where people pass, or if they have babies and the babies are like stillborn. So I've dealt with that. I've dealt with emergency medicine, cardiac, which I love, just med surge, which most of all the nurses, they end up going to once they get out of school, and PCU, just an array of different fields, just so I can get the experience needed in order to build up to where I really wanted to go. But long story short, through all of that, I learned different tasks and fields so that I can build myself up to the nurse practitioner role. Because after I helped, so many people in the medical realm, I wanted to switch to like dermatology. So I ended up switching more so towards the master's degree and a doctorate degree. So that's ultimately what I ended up graduating for. I ended up graduating with family practice. So I still help on the family realm, but my heart then lied with cosmetics, because some of the other stuff, it did take a toll on me, just seeing so many sick people and deaths and all that. So that took a toll. So that's why I switched more towards cosmetics too. Yeah, but it led me from that to working in that field, dermatology, which now I manage some med spas across the state. So that's how I still use that license. But I also transitioned to real estate because my husband at the time was in real estate, and he's now a broker also. But I remember distinctly one day when COVID hit, everyone's hours were being reduced. And I was like, honey, I think it's time to transition over. I said, I have time now. I think if we put our energies together and work together, we'd be able to do more. So he agreed. And that's when I started taking a real estate exam, passed that. 2 years later, took the broker exam, ended up passing that. So that's where I am.
Wow, that's amazing. And then you're still managing those, you said 3 different spa locations, correct?
Right.
Do you go to those locations? Is it like a franchise, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so it's just virtual. If there's ever an emergency, I have to fly out there, but it's really just virtual, and they consult me. So it's really like consultant services to make sure that their med spas are correctly in line and actually in protocol. So it's just really if they need anything, they'll contact me. I'll meet with them monthly to make sure everything's okay, and that I do their patient charts. So I'll check their charts to make sure that they're tight so they don't get sued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it, are you an owner of it, or is it different med spas that you're overlooking? Is it different ownership, but you're just overlooking it as like a consultation?
Yeah, just overlooking, almost kind of like a consultation. So some med spas, you'll need what you call a medical director. That's essentially what I am to them.
Okay. And how did you get into that? Like, I feel like that's a very unique and specific job in a sense. How did you get into that?
Well, I had a med spa at one time. So like I said, when I transitioned to dermatology, that's when I was known in the area for doing lashes and like cosmetics, injections. So I created an opportunity for myself because I tried getting hired on at dermatology clinics, and fresh out of school, many people don't, they don't hire you. They want the experience, but how do you gain experience if you have no experience? Yeah. So I went to a lot of training seminars and classes trying to educate myself. And then I opened up my own spa, which had to have a medical director. In the state of Florida, you have to have an MD license in order to be a medical director. But in other states, all you have to have is a DNP or nurse practitioner license. So that's how I got my start, just making sure that I did the cosmetics, learned, and then I was able to apply. And with this company kind of like manages the different spas, or either you can find independent individuals that need support or help. Like you can just put a post out on Indeed and say that you are looking for collaborating colleagues to be the medical director over, and they'll answer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So tell me a little bit about, so you have 4 kids, right?
Yes.
And how old are they?
They are 4, 5, 12, and 15.
Okay. So then what has that looked like for you when you're obviously running your own dermatology center, and then obviously now doing what you're doing now with real estate and your husband being a broker? That's obviously a lot of commitment in your career. So what does that look like with your kids, and how do you incorporate your family life with your business life?
Well, it's very difficult because just the two, they go together, but they don't, because you got to keep things separate, right? Because if you just keep diving into one or the other, either one gets more attention than the other, and the other starts failing. If you spend more time in your business, then many times relationships fail. If you spend more time in your relationship, then oftentimes your business starts trickling down. So it's usually one or the other. As far as the couples, one usually, like the man or female, one does a little bit more. It's usually sometimes the male, while the female does more of the like kids and everything. So that was like my role. And we also had help with the nanny. So I would still, watch the kids. They're all homeschooled, so I still have to do that.
Holy
Um,
moly. Oh
yes,
my God. Like that adds a whole nother layer in my
it
opinion.
does.
Oh
It
my
does.
gosh.
It's a lot. It's really a lot. But like I said, the nanny, she does help out with some of it, a couple of hours a day. But yeah, it's really a lot. It's just, you really have to set a schedule. Like my calendar on my phone, like it's just full of what I have to do throughout the day. And I try to make sure that I do hit everything on there. And I used to beat myself up about things if I didn't hit it, if I'm like, oh, I didn't get this done today. But I came to a realization that you're not perfect. You can't do everything. There's no way. I'm not a robot, If AI maybe that's taking over right now, but not me. So
Yeah.
if I don't finish it that day, then I just put it on the schedule to do it the next day.
So what has gotten you to be very disciplined? And I agree with you. We can't be so hard on ourselves when we don't get some things done. We have to have grace for ourselves, and we have to, because things come up. Probably put too much on my plate, but I do know that I'm probably not going to get all of that done. And that's okay. And that's okay. So how do you set your day up? Do you plan the week before, the month before, the night before on what your next day looks like? Or what do you do to set yourself up for success?
I try to plan, if I can, at least 2 weeks in advance. Some of the appointments that I have, like even casts that I have scheduled for, those are usually scheduled months in advance so that I can put those on the calendar, make sure I'm there. But as far as tasks, sometimes things just come up, like doctor's appointments. I try to pre-schedule those at least over a month in advance. Like my 12-year-old, she now has braces, so I know a month in advance when I have to go take her back. But as far as the little tasks that I need to do, I at least plan for those a day ahead. And with my agents, I try to plan for them at least 2 weeks in advance too. And I have a little Calendly link. So the Calendly link is linked to my personal calendar. So I'm able to organize and put everything there.
So when you say your agents, like the agents underneath of you, what are you planning for them? What does that mean, and what does that look like?
Sometimes it's meeting time with me. So if I have like 15, 20 minutes, I'll tell them to use the Calendly link, or if they need longer, if we need like a lunch meeting or a 30-minute, I tell them to book it on a Calendly link, please, so that I can organize my time. If it's just something like a quick call, sometimes I'm driving in between and I'll just call them back whenever I'm in between appointments. But most of the time it's their booking, just to be on my calendar to just make sure that I stay organized.
Yeah. And I think what really helps with that is setting those boundaries and having those expectations. Because I think if it's a free for all, you're pulled in so many more directions. And that goes for your clients too. If you can be very clear, hey, usually after 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, from 6 to 8:30, I'm with my family and I'll get back to you, but that's my family time. So I think setting those boundaries and having those expectations, because I know when I was a new agent, I was answering every single phone call. I was calling people back and meeting. You know what I mean? I want to go look at this house. You're like, I'll be there. I mean, like you drop everything, but you get to the point where it does start to affect your family life, or it does start to affect your relationship. And you have to be able to pull back and think, okay, so an example, I had somebody who wanted to go look at a house, and I had this feeling they were going to write up an offer. I hadn't worked with them yet. It was a referral kind of thing. And they wanted to go look at this house. It was like an hour away. Typically don't drive that far, but it was the same night as my son's baseball game. And I tried to find somebody to help cover me to drive there. Couldn't find anybody. Unfortunately, it was a transaction that I did not get, but it was one of those things I had to make a decision. I was either going to be at my son's baseball game or go do this showing. And it would have been a 3.5 hour from the time I left home, did the showing and came back. And I don't like missing out on my kids' activities. You know, it's in my calendar. Those are my appointments too. And so I had to realize and be okay with not getting that deal.
Appointment. Yeah. So I can piggyback off of that. When I was younger, the generation before us, I call it, they're that work generation where you work the 9 to 5, you get that golden watch at the end and the pension, right?
Mm-hmm.
This generation's a bit different and we're more entrepreneur-like.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember telling my mom, I really wish you were there for me more, because she worked a lot. She was like, would you rather have a good life or me be there more, which means I can't work? And and I was like, would have rather the time than the money, right? So that's good. Your son rathers you be there and be at every game, or at least most of the games, rather than the money, because the money just comes secondary.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good life, you're not going to be happy. The money doesn't make you happy at all. There's billionaires that kill themselves. Why is that? Because they're not happy internally. Their circle of friends that they have, they're really not friends. They're just there to kind of leech. So if you don't have that common ground of family aspect and just making sure that you're whole and centered, then all the money that you make doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And that's why earlier I had said success is defined differently by everybody, because people think success comes from monetary or financial gains. And in all reality, money can help alleviate some stress, so you're not having to constantly worry about bills and all of those things. So yes, money is a huge aspect of it, but it's not, like you said, there's billionaires who commit suicide. There's billionaires who have terrible relationships and they constantly work. But I think people use that as an outlet because they're struggling and suffering internally. I think mental health is the number one priority. And in order to have good, sustainable mental health, you have to give back to yourself. You have to take time for yourself. And I love how you have the med spa, because I don't know of any better way for a woman, a mom, to take care of themselves. Because when you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you do good, Right. And so it's funny that you have this med spa, because I have a friend who is a nurse practitioner. Her husband is an MD, and she wants to do a med spa. She absolutely does. I'm like, what are you waiting for? I don't know. I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for that. I'm like, do it. Just do it. Like, you're never going to know. And even if you start, she's like, well, I want this big office. I'm like, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You're starting in a small little office. Like, your husband has his MD. She's a nurse practitioner. Like, you have the basics. Mm-hmm. Now you just need to do it and believe in yourself.
Yeah. All she needs to do is start small. There's many people that go out of business saying, I need this huge space. I got to have this. I got to have that. I got to have 10 chairs. Like, you got to know that you got to first get some clients, for one. So I'm sure she does have a Rolodex of people that would support her, but you're only doing one person at a time. So just start in that room. That's that small office space. If you have to rent, there's even people you can sub rent from, save the money so that you can profit. Once it's super profitable, you have reserves, then build up to the office that you want.
Yeah. So if you could give her an advice, like, if I'm probably going to talk to her and be like, hey, I just did this interview with this amazing woman. She runs spa clinics. She's owned her own, but she's a realtor as well. But what is something that I could tell her to just get started? Like, I know, like, just start, but what does that look like? Because I think for somebody, they get so overwhelmed with entrepreneurship, running your own business, having the legal things set up, obviously your entity, your LLC, location. I mean, there is a lot more than just getting started. What do you think would be the first step? Because she's like, this is her dream. And I'm like, do it.
Yeah, I don't know if she has the background experience with it, but if she's kind of nervous too about maybe injections, and
she does it all the time already.
Oh, okay. Well, then she's good. Then it's just start,
I know.
Make sure you have the liability insurance in place, and I know that she might be getting cold feet, or maybe it's the time. Maybe she thinks she might not have enough time with whatever else she does throughout the day. But balance that. If this is something she really wants, always tell people, if it's your dream, go after your dream. Chase that a little bit more rather than something you don't like, because the thing you don't like, you're going to end up quitting anyway. But the thing you do like, you'll follow that through. So if this is something that she really likes, she'll tell her to get started and go just one step at a time. She already has everything. Like you said, she knows it all. She already does it. So I'm sure she has a liability set up. It's really just getting a client, her first client in the door. Really marketing herself is big and key. Social media is free. Just start marketing, taking pictures of people, saying now, hey, I'm adding a new service. And that's what it takes to get started.
I know. I think she's waiting for a big office building and all these beautiful things. But like you said, it starts off very slow. People get into entrepreneurship. They're super excited. This is going to be so much fun. I'm going to love every single day. And then you get into it a month and you're like, holy moly, this is terrible.
Yeah. So I would recommend too a good CPA for her. A CPA, like a tax accountant. If she's going to get into that, definitely get a great bookkeeper, somebody that manages your books for you so you can focus more on your business.
Yeah. So, and that your CPA is directed for the dermatology area. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah, for sure. It make sure that they know about medical and any write-offs that they would need. And of course, if she is concerned about anything and she wants a big office, maybe a financial planner. I have someone that is able to help her plan that. To me, I would rather have a small office and save X amount of money per month and generate a larger profit than have a big office and pay all these expenses and generate a smaller profit.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs do fail, is that they don't make their CPA and bookkeeping a priority. So kind of like you said, they go for the beautiful front storefront. They're spending thousands of dollars a month, but then they're not doing their bookkeeping correctly. They don't have a CPA who's looking out for their best interest. They don't have a CPA who's knowledgeable in their realm of expertise and using and capitalizing on the maximum potential of savings, tax deductions, all of those things. Like, I found a CPA who is also an investor, and it took me like 3 CPAs. And it wasn't that there was anything wrong with those other CPAs. It just was like, no, I just knew it wasn't the right fit. And when I found this, what's that?
I said, same here.
Yeah. And I kind of felt bad because I was like going through one CPA, like it took I went through 3 in like 3 years.
Yeah.
maybe 4 or 5 years. I don't know. Either way, I found a CPA now, definitely more expensive, but he has saved me so much more money. He has increased my knowledge so much more. And it's a game changer. It really is. Like, it kind of hurts writing that check and making that payment. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's actually very small. So yeah, like you said, having the right CPA, because one CPA is not going to fit for all. I'm not going to hire my dad, who's a farmer, his CPA to do my real estate stuff. Right. No. But that's where a lot of people fail too, is they just go with the CPA that their parents went with. And then I struggle with that in my family. Like, my siblings use my dad's CPA. I'm like, you guys are in a totally different realm of business. Like, my sister does trucking. She owns a trucking business and dog boarding business. And my dad's a farmer, and she's using my dad's CPA. I'm like, no.
Yeah. I learned that lesson. You got to have a CPA that knows about that specific field, or else you just be spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
Like, too many people that advertise, I'm a CPA, but I've learned throughout the years of switching CPAs like you, if they don't know and specialize in that and have like other brokerages, you're not going to get, one, the best deals with tax write-offs, 2, that sometimes things don't be filed as quickly as you would like them to be, or if you need to pull reports like P&L reports that sometimes the bank needs in order to get properties, they won't have the urgency to do that because they don't know, and you end up getting like a month later and that property, like, what are you going to do? So you got to have someone. At my position now, I learned that you got to have somebody in that specific field in what you want.
100%. That's everything. That's every aspect of life. I don't know if you have a coach, but I have a coach who specializes, is specific with helping realtors grow to another level of GCI. And obviously that costs more money.
Right.
I've had coaches throughout my entire career, but when I started out, what I was paying was a lot less than what I'm paying now. Because as you grow, you have to find a coach who's already been there. You don't want to have a coach who's never been to where you want to go. And that's not just for your business, that's for your health. That's all of those things. Like, I'm not going to go to a foot doctor and hope he can fix my heart problems. That doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, I think there's just something that a lot of entrepreneurs need to realize is that CPA, your attorney, very crucial parts of your business. It's an expense that you don't see like a direct, I guess, income profit from, but it saves you a whole lot more on the back end.
It does. And I want to piggyback off what you said about the coach. Because sometimes you get a coach and you outgrow your coach. So you have to know when you outgrow your coach too. I've had a coach in the past and the coach was admiring me more than giving advice. Oh yeah, you do that? Oh yeah, let me jot that down. What did you get that from? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm pouring into the coach more than the coach is pouring into me. So it's time you gotta in that relationship and find the next coach that you're able to get advice. Because if you're paying for that coach, then you should be able to get as much and soak in as much as you can from that person so that you can go to the next level. Because if you guys are on the same level or that coach is a little below you, you're not going to go anywhere.
And you need to be able to recognize that and be okay with it. And it's nothing personal.
Right.
And that's another thing in business. Stop taking things personal. People make decisions for business reasons. Sometimes it might be personal. Move on. Can't dwell on it. Get past it. Who cares? I always say somebody else's problem with me is not my problem. As long as I did not intentionally do something to hurt them or their business or family, I would never do that. But if somebody has a problem with me, it usually has nothing to do with me and it's something to do with them. But when it comes to business, like your coach, you need somebody who's going to be able to pull you up, not stand next to your side or below you. But that's interesting that you said that because, I mean, you have to get something out of your coach. You have to. They need to be able to push you. And it's interesting because every time I go into my call with my coach every week, I'm almost like worried that he's going to not be as excited or not be happy with where I'm at and my goals and reaching my goals. Like, I hate going into calls where I didn't do as good the week before because I'm like, oh, he's gonna be upset. I don't want to disappoint him. But I don't care about disappointing myself apparently. But if I disappoint him, but it's a level of accountability that it's a little bit different, especially when you're paying them a substantial amount. You do what they tell you to do.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have a coach now?
Yeah, I definitely have a coach. So I didn't before, but like where I am in my business, I realized that I have to grow and excel, even for the agents, just offering a level of something that I don't know. Because, if I came from the medical realm and I spent years before then just doing medical things and then switch over to real estate, like I'm not so versed in real estate. Like, of course, I know all the rules, regulations. It's been successful so far. But how do I take that success and 10x that success? That I need help with. And you got to recognize when you need help and to actually be able to grow yourself. Now, of course, it is a financial cost. So you have to build yourself up to a level that you're able to expend this per month and know, hey, I got to pay this. I wouldn't recommend, of course, putting on credit cards every month unless you can pay that off each month or at least a portion of it, because that's going to rack up too until you start getting that business in. So I advise, even my agents, once they reach a certain level in their business, I give them a coach. That's when they're assigned that coach and they contribute towards that coach too, unless they perform at X amount. So everybody needs somebody that they can lean on and take advice from because the world's so big. Like Jeff Bezos, he didn't do it alone, right? No. None of the millionaires or billionaires got to where they were because they just sat in their office and was like, I'm gonna do this today. Let me try this. They all had somebody that they leaned on and took advice from. Yeah. You have to be able to leverage and delegate. And I think with entrepreneurs, you kind of have a tough time delegating because it does cut into your income and your profitability. But in the long run, it should help you grow. And if it's not, well, then you maybe need to take a step back and it's like, okay, well, is this person really doing the things that they need to do in order to help the business and the vision get to where we need to go? And then I also think that people need to have a clear vision. I'm still kind of struggling with that. I get up every day like, all right, God,
what is my purpose? What direction do I need to go? Show me and guide me. But I know it's going to be in his time, but it's one of those things that like, I feel like, oh, you need a very clear vision. 100% agree. I just still need to figure that out.
Yeah. I would say you don't have to have an exact path. Like as long as you're on the right path, because you're always going to go like this. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that, but you're still going to teeter-totter on that path. But nobody has a straight path to success. Success looks like this, so.
Or this.
Yeah, exactly.
Not even
flat
stairs.
line,
Yeah. Haven't you ever seen those clips and it says the emotions of a real estate agent and it's like, oh, yeah. That's entrepreneurship though. You started off, you're super excited and then income sets in expenses set in, income's going down, motivation declines because you're not always going to have motivation. I'm sure you can attest to that. It's just being disciplined. Like you said, scheduling or having a schedule, having those boundaries. And one thing my coach and I talked about yesterday is really getting specific and getting back into, like, I have my calendar. I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to do the next day or, weeks in advance and stuff like that. But I noticed here lately, I stopped writing down like specifically what I was going to do every single day the night before, because sometimes you'll have free time. So it's like, okay, well, if I can plan the night before what I'm going to do in that free time, I'm so much more productive. And as an entrepreneur, what you do today affects what happens in your income in a month, 2 months from now. It's not a direct relationship or a direct correlation. You're not going to do something today and get paid today.
Right.
That's awesome. But it's a trickle effect,
Right.
So yeah. So now I'm just kind of also blown away about homeschooling your kids.
Yes.
So do you do that?
So they have an online program and it's blended. So we also teach, they have book work that we have to do because the little ones are so young. So they're not going to, know. So we have to do the book work with them and the online work until they get to the stage. I think it's second or third grade when they have like online teachers to help with some of that. But they do give us the coursework that, we're supposed to go through with them, but we're the teachers. And then she has a teacher that grades things, but we have to grade it too. So their assessments that they do, the teacher grades them, but the work that we do together, we kind of grade them and they give us like an instructor's guide and everything. So yes, back to the grading, being a teacher. So I'm also a teacher. And
you didn't put that on your resume.
Right.
I would say that's probably the top thing in my opinion. That's above the realtor and the nurse practitioner because holy moly.
Yeah.
I give teachers so much credit. It's insane.
Yeah, it's definitely. I really appreciate teachers. It's a lot. And I actually used to teach nursing courses at St. Pete College. So just dealing with, it was a generation that had young, like 20s on up to like 50s on that class. So just seeing that whole blended generation, the younger ones would kind of come cry. I even had one older one. She was going through menopause. She would cry too. So just seeing that, the emotions of each generation and the stressfulness of going to school and, just trying to manage them to manage my emotions as I'm trying to manage them because I'm like, they're coming with some sad stories sometimes. Yeah. And then having to release that before you get home to take care of your own family. That's why I could never do psych.
So I was actually a case manager for mentally ill adults and I started going to school for psychology and counseling. And I realized, holy moly, like that affects my mental health more than I ever anticipated. And I did it for 6 years. I was a case manager and it was rewarding, but it wasn't kind of thing. Didn't get paid near enough what you need to. And my mental health had declined a lot because it's a whole, like it kind of is probably as a broker too, when you are working or anybody, when you're an employer and you have employees or 1099 contractors, when you want something more for somebody else, but they don't want it as bad as you do.
Yes.
That's the hard part. And I was getting so exhausted with like, I know you can do it. But when it comes to psychology, when somebody's given a diagnosis, what I had noticed is they started to identify as that diagnosis. And I was like, you are not your diagnosis. You are not a depressed person. You are not a schizophrenic individual. You have schizophrenia. let's find ways to help you function normally or as normal as possible, or as what you want. But like, nope, I'm schizophrenic, and I get it, but I was struggling so bad. Like,
Yeah.
stop, like they
Labeling your own self, putting you in the box.
yes, and I'm like, stop giving yourself this stigma, because you are not a depressed person. You have depression. I struggle with depression. I struggle with anxiety my entire life. I would not classify myself as a depressed person or an anxious person.
Right.
I have the times where I go through those, but as long as I keep up with my mental health, my physical health, my nutrition, my business life, my family life, my personal life, me as an individual, I don't struggle with that near as much. But that was the
Right.
hardest part with it, is I wanted it more than what they wanted it. And I was like, I can't. It was too tolling. Like, I know where you can go. I know what you can do, and I know what you can be. You have to believe it. But that's not just the psychology. That's honestly everybody. You look at people and they're just going through the emotions or the motions of life, but they're not living. And it's, I see so much more in you, but they have to believe it.
Exactly. And that not only does that go for medical and mental health, but that goes for real estate, right? I'm sure you've worked with agents too that just they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe in themselves, they're not going to succeed, they're not going to close. I have agents that close deals within the first 6 months. And some agents that we've worked with, which we don't keep at the brokerage, they just never close a deal because, for one, we've had an agent in her mind, she's never sold a deal, but she said, I only sell luxury properties. I said, well, what is luxury to you? And she was like, $1 million properties. I said, but you haven't sold one house yet. We got to build you up first to get there. And still today, looking at her record, she still hasn't sold a house yet. Right. So you got to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to at least take baby steps there. I've never seen a baby come out of the womb and start running.
No.
Like if you look at womanhood and motherhood, if you look at the trend of how babies are born and how they're taken care of, nurtured, then they go on to progress in next stages. Sometimes you don't even see the growth of your baby getting taller until you mark it on the wall. Life works the same way. That sometimes you don't see the growth within your business, but you're taking baby steps to get there. There's something called a Kaizen principle, where it's like you progress 0.01% every day, right? But you're going to see that grow, just like compound interest. You'll one day you'll wake up and be like, how did I get here? Because you've grown so much from the beginning, but it does take time. You're not going to get there maybe in a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 5 years. Sometimes you'll see that mark, but just know to keep going every day. Like you said, you got to keep your mental health in check. We call it, for anything that you might be dealing with, and keep your body, go to the gym or whatever, meditate, whatever keeps you happy, in order to still be able to get up that day. Some days I lay in bed too, I'm just like, I can't do it today. I'm gonna do something I like. I'm gonna go watch a little movie, eat a little snack. I try not to eat too much sweets, but if I'm in that mood, I'm just like, I'm gonna eat a little something, watch a movie, and then tomorrow I'll just pick it up and start where I started from the day before.
Yeah. Yeah. And my coach, or my sponsor with EXP, he always says incremental, not monumental. And it's kind of like with your fitness, you're not going to go to the gym and expect to just lose 30 pounds. No, because that would be insane. You're going to go to the gym, and it's going to the gym every day, or 5 days a week, or 3 days a week starting out. And then instead of having 2 brownies, maybe you only have 1. And it's just making those teeny tiny adjustments. Or I was talking to a health lady, and she said, even just switching from like the corn, high fructose corn syrup to pure maple syrup. She's like, it's not the best thing, but it's a step. You know what I mean? So it's just those teeny tiny little things. But I also think, kind of going, it could be in reverse too. So let's say you're not doing these things and you're eating 2 brownies. Okay, well, now I'm going to have like 2.5 brownies. Well, those small little decisions backwards. And I really believe that's why people go through midlife crisis, because they get to a point in their life, 40, 50, 55, whatever it is, and realize, how did I get here? This is not where I wanted my life to be. This is not the direction I wanted it to go, but they were making the decisions younger that led them to where they're at now. They weren't taking those risks. They weren't taking those chances. They were choosing comfort and easy over hard and difficult. And another saying that I absolutely love is, life is either hard now and easy later, or easy now and hard later. Choose your heart. you know? So if it means, because people always say, Shae, you're constantly working, you're always working. Because I want a future of financial freedom. I want a future that I don't have to look back and regret anything on. I want to know that I lived this life to my fullest potential in the best way possible. And I made an impact on every single person that I came across.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
that's beautiful. I said, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wish more people, and that doesn't mean that I get up every day. I'm like, oh, I love my life. Everything's perfect. It's fantastic. No, it's still a struggle. I still have to go through the motions. Like you said, like when I have those days where I don't want to get up, those are the days that it makes that you take bigger strides, especially if you can still get up and do the things that you want, that you know you need to do. Like getting out for a gratitude walk, working out, doing those things, even when it's the biggest struggle in the entire world. That's where the biggest difference is made.
Exactly.
So if you could give yourself one piece of advice going back, starting out, or maybe somebody new who's kind of getting into either the med spa situation or as a realtor or just entrepreneurship in general, what is one piece of advice that you would give them?
I always tell people my advice is usually always the same. Just start and never give up. If you really have a true passion, you can distinguish people who have a passion for something and just somebody who just wants to do something just to stay busy. But when that passion kicks in, I mean, you're going to get up every day, right? So you're just going to do it. And then you're never going to give up because that passion's there. So you're like, this is something I really want to do. If you've heard of Steve Harvey.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love him. I love him. Yes.
Okay. So he has a message.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably heard this story, but he has a story within his podcast. And he says that there's a guy that used to cut grass. And they used to make fun of him because he'd be like, I got to go to Mrs. Jones' house today instead of play with everybody. And he was a kid at the time. And he's like, why can't you stay here and play? And he's like, no, I got to cut Miss Jones's grass. But now today, because he kept cutting Miss Jones's grass, that was a passion for him. Most people be like, it's just grass. You just go hire somebody, or I cut my own grass. Now he's a millionaire today because that was his passion and he kept doing it. Even he would, of course, he would play with them, but he'd be like, I got to go now because I got to go cut some grass. So that's the same mentality you have to have when you own your own business. If I could go back to my younger self, tell them something or give advice to somebody else here that's listening to this podcast, just follow your passion, but make sure you follow it to the fullest. Don't leave any gaps to say, I could have did this, coulda, shoulda, woulda type of thing. Just really put your all into it.
Denzel Washington, he said that he's like, I didn't have a plan B. I don't have a plan B. You have plan A. And he's like, I don't want to fall back on anything. If I'm going to fall, I'm going to fall forward. And it's a different mentality of looking at it that don't have a plan B. Like if that's your passion, you're going to have obstacles, hurdles, mountains, anything. You're going to get slapped in the face. You're going to fall down 100 times. But people don't quit, or people don't fail, they quit. And that was another quote I really loved because it's so true. And it is tough, and people quit when things do get tough, when they feel the pressure. But diamonds were created through immense amount of pressure.
Right.
You can get through it. You just have to keep going, and it will get better.
It definitely will.
It definitely does. So I truly appreciate you being on my podcast, Dr. C. I am so excited to talk to my friend about our conversation and how she just needs to get out there and do it, believe, and don't give up. So I am so happy that you took the time to be here today. And if anybody has any questions or needs to reach out to you, how can they get a hold of you, whether they're looking to buy or maybe they have a spa and they need some sort of consultation? How can they get in touch with you?
So you can email me at alicia@opulentrealtyint.com, or for the medical side, admin@opulentmedicalcare.com. I have social media. My IG and Facebook is under Alicia Claircius. So just, look up that name and you'll find me. Just Google me. You can find me anyway.
Okay. That is a tongue twister of a name. I love it. It is beautiful. It is a little bit of a tongue twister.
Yes.
So yes, I appreciate you being here, and thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Okay. No, I think I'm really excited. My friend's her name is Amber, and yeah, she's been a nurse practitioner forever. Her husband actually owns a clinic here in town. He's an MD. And I have just constantly been telling her, I'm like, you just need to do it. And he wants to build a facility and she wants to wait till his facility's built. I'm like, but Amber, how long is that going to be? She's like, I know it could be 3 to 5 years. I'm like, so start now. And then by the time that is built,
now it's big, right?
You have the clientele that you can just easily jump into. They make good money, so money is probably not an issue, but you still have to start somewhere. You still have to start building that clientele, because even if you make a lot of money, you don't want it to be a complete flop. You want it to be successful, because she wants to help other people. She wants to help women feel good about themselves and offer these services that we don't have in our community. So I need to talk to her. I'll obviously send her this podcast when it comes out, but yeah, and hopefully maybe have her get in touch with you too, because, so do you kind of coach them as well? Are you kind of like a coach consultant for a med spa?
Yeah. So, but with the services I currently offer now, I can coach and help with that. But what I currently do is just make sure that they're in compliance. Like, say if they're given the dosages, making sure that if they give somebody Juvederm, that they don't overdo it with their Juvederm, or what area are they injecting and how much are they injecting, just to make sure that their charts are right. So that's pretty much what I do now.
Okay.
But I mean, for her situation, definitely maybe this will help if she gets started now from a marketing standpoint that I was thinking about while you were talking about it. When they do open up the office in 3 to 5 years, that's just a whole huge marketing brand play, because now she had this smaller office and now she can say, hey, we leveled up to this, even though that was already in the works. And now she just brings her clients over there rather than just starting there, because people like to see transitions and that you're actually succeeding. Even if she's only had 1 or 2 clients she works with now and still has those same 2 clients, if she starts in that small office and moves those same 2 clients to the large office and advertises that, she's not going to double her clientele from just doing that.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you, I think it'd be absolutely perfect. I told her, I said, I would be an investor in that because I think it would be absolutely amazing and she would rock it. So I'll have to keep you informed on how that goes and if she ever goes anywhere with it. So,
awesome.
All righty. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time out of your day. Obviously, you're very busy. So truly appreciate it. Like I said, my producers will send you an email with the thumbnails and all of the things. So if you want to tag me, I'll definitely be tagging you as long as social media allows me to. But any questions, please let me know. Actually, one thing that I do want to ask, I always like to send a thank you. What is a good address for you? It could be your business address, home address, or whatever you prefer.
211 East Main Street. And that's number 435. And that's Lakeland, Lakeland. And Florida 33801.
All righty. Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much again. And if there's anything that I can do, I'm in Nebraska. Don't know if you ever have anybody moving to Nebraska, but I am here to help however I can.
For sure. Thank you.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. And that wraps up another inspiring episode of the Real Moms Podcast. A huge thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their story and insights today. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And hey, sharing is caring, right? Share this podcast with your fellow mompreneurs, friends, and anyone who you feel could use a dose of inspiration. Share it on your social media as well. But most importantly, if you found this episode helpful, please, please, please leave me a 5-star review. This helps get our information out to those who have never heard or seen us before. Are you feeling inspired and you're sure that you could add some value to the podcast? Shoot me a message and let's talk. We love hearing from you. So connect with us on social media. Tag me at Shae J Spits. That's ShaeJSpitz. And share your thoughts and takeaways, or even suggest topics you'd like to have us explore more in the future episodes. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Your resilience is your strength, and your pursuit of abundant living is truly remarkable. As always, keep thriving, keep growing, and keep embracing the beautiful chaos of being a mompreneur. Until next time, take care, stay real, and keep living abundantly.